very much indeed. May God bless Zimbabwe. You may take our seats. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this very important day, a historic day indeed for the authority. At this point, allow me to invite Mr. Musa Mulea to dedicate this event to the Almighty. Mr. Musa.
May we kindly bow our heads for our opening prayer. I'll just wait for those that are still sitting. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we are so thankful and grateful for this day that you have given us. We are thankful, Lord, for the blessings, the guidance that you afforded the authority, our principals, our leadership, our employees, and all the stakeholders throughout last year. Now, Lord, we gather today for this AGM. We commit it into your hands. We pray, Lord, for unity. We pray for integrity and accountability as we consider the matters of last year as well as the future of the authority. Pray most importantly, Lord, that you may grant us your wisdom, that as we go through today's proceedings and the future of our country and our authority, all may go well. This we pray in the mighty name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir, for that dedication. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the annual general meeting of the authority, a very historic event. Before we get into the formal proceedings, allow me to make some few housekeeping matters. Esteemed members, we humbly request that you put your phones, your mobile phones, on silence. Let's put our mobile phones on silence. We also humbly request that this event is being live streamed and recorded for official purposes. However, should there be any guests or delegates who may feel uncomfortable in being filmed, please do so. Just let our media team know. This is in compliance with the data protection and privacy measures. For our convenience rooms, they are duly and properly signed out, so our ushers may direct you. In the unlikely event of any emergency, please do stand guided by our ushers as well as our security. At the end of this event, there shall be lunch. So please bear with us as we get into the formal proceedings. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, it is my honor and certainly privilege to invite the board chair of the Zimbabwe Revenue Authority, Mr. Anton Mandowanza, to take us into the formal proceedings of the annual general meeting of the authority. Board Chair, sir, may you please give him a round of applause as he comes through. Let's keep clapping as we encourage you. Thank you.
Now, there's a fight there. Whose is that? I extend a very warm welcome to you all to the Zimbabwe Revenue Authority 9th Annual General Meeting. May I call the meeting to order. First and foremost, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the Minister of Finance, Economic Planning, Development and Investment Promotion, our parent ministry here, represented by Mrs. Muzondo. Thank you very much for gracing this occasion. We appreciate your presence. Other officials from the Ministry of Finance here present, you are most welcome. In particular, Mr. Zata, whom we relate very closely. The Honorable Chairperson of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee. I'm informed that from the Budget, Finance and Investment Promotion, Honorable Liwayo may be present now or on his way. On public accounts, Honorable Custom Mateu, Industry and Commerce, Honorable Clement Chidua. representatives from the Office of the President and the Cabinet, CGU, represented by Mrs. E. Madziva, representatives from the Office of the Auditor General. I extend a special welcome to the Deputy Auditor General, Mrs. Kujinga. Welcome, Madam, for your presence here. Representatives from the State Enterprises Restructuring Agent, Mr. T. Matanga, officials from other government ministries, departments, and agents, and senior government officials here present, development partners and cooperating partners, esteemed stakeholders, namely from the industry and sector association, accounting firms and tax agents, customs clearing agents associations, shipping and freight forwarders association and representatives, cross borders association, transport operators association of Zimbabwe, regulatory bodies, Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, key players in the financial service sectors such as the Deposit Protection Corporation and banks, our partners in law enforcement and justice delivery, ZIA, Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, NPA, Law Society of Zimbabwe, and partner law firms, ZIMRA board members and management and staff here present, members of the Fourth Estate, the media, ladies and gentlemen. We will at this point start the business of the AGM. May I call upon the Cabinet Secretary to confirm if the meeting has a quorum.
I do confirm what Chairperson that all the statutory stakeholders prescribed in terms of legislation and attendance have specific mention to the Minister of Finance, the Accountant General who is joining online, the Auditor General, the Corporate Governance Unit, and the State Enterprise and Restructuring Agents. So, like I said, Chairman, I confirm that the meeting indeed has a quorum to proceed with the business of the day.
The quorum being in place as confirmed by the Cabinet Secretary, I declare the meeting properly constituted to proceed with the business of the day. First, adoption of the notice and agenda convening the AGM. May I call again the Cabinet Secretary to confirm whether the notice and agenda for the meeting was properly placed and published, circulated to stakeholders in line with the requirements.
I do confirm, Chairman, that the notice of the AGM was circulated as per requirements. It was published on the ZIMRA website on the 28th of May, circulated and published in the newspapers on the 29th of May. Thank you.
With that confirmation, I move a motion for the notice convening this meeting and the agenda to be taken as read and duly adopted. May I have a proposer? Thank you, sir. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, sir. The motion is carried. Minutes are we move on to the confirmation of minutes of the previous AGM. The minutes having been circulated ahead of the meeting, I propose that they be taken as read. May I have a proposal? Oh, sorry, may I have a seconder, please? I propose that the minutes be taken as read since they were circulated to shareholders ahead of this AGM. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, sir. The minutes are seconded. We move on to the next item, which is discussion of matters arising from the minutes of the 8th Annual General Meeting held on the 23rd of June, 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, there were two issues which were raised at that meeting. The first one was the ZIMRA was alerted to incidents of theft of seized goods at Bark Logistics. These goods were seized from buses and trucks under the anti-smuggling operation. ZIMRA appreciated the information and undertook to investigate. I wish to report to this AGM that indeed an investigation was undertaken. 2 individuals were arrested on allegation of stealing goods from a detained bus. Those goods were recovered and the case handed over to the Zimbabwe Republic Police. To guard against future occurrences, supervision of deployed security guards has been enhanced, whilst goods takeover protocols have been tightened. The matter remains a high alert issue to deter any possibility of abuse of those goods which would have been seized. The second item was around compliance report. ZIMRA was asked about progress on the call for ZIMRA to retain 3% of collections to fund the ZIMRA budget. In response, ZIMRA highlighted that approval of the funding model was still pending and that engagement were ongoing with relevant authorities. We wish to report that the matter still remains under discussion with our parent ministry, and as soon as a decision is made, it will be communicated. It's a matter that is still receiving attention. So those are the two matters arising from the previous AGM. May I invite comments, if there are any, around the matters arising which I've just gone through? If none, I declare the matters arising discussed and closed. We move on to corporate reports. The first item is to receive and consider for adoption the chairman's report. Before I present my chairman's report, I just want to call upstand our heroine in this meeting, who also is the culprit for everything that the chairman is going to be saying. Judith, may you upstand? Thank you so much, Judith. Thank you so much. We really appreciate. We fully appreciate the amount of work and quality we have put in all this. Thank you so much. You can take a seat. I need to be somewhere where I'm visible to the presentation. Is it that one? Okay. So I'll pretend as if to say I'm not reading. Now let me just get into mine in the on the iPad. Cancel my, yeah. Where is it hiding now? Let me see. Under Ruth, what did Ruth is? Yeah, but I think I can see. Okay.
You can use this.
Yeah, I don't want to give the board my back. Okay, I will try. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as guided by corporate governance units in terms of good governance, the chairman is expected to give a high-level synoptic overview of the key issues that influenced the performance of the business, and to give a very brief outlook in terms of the direction, the forward-looking directional issues. And the most important issue for shareholders is what we call business continuity, a statement of business continuity. The board and its management must give a statement that says we are confident that the business is in good space. And I know Minister of Finance would like to be assured that the revenue will continue to be collected. That is business continuity. On behalf of my board, I am so pleased and privileged to be presenting to you what we consider to be a very solid institution that now has been built on fundamental principles and pillars that guarantees sustained revenue collection in terms of governance, quality, and credibility. I'm delighted that this is precisely what we are doing today. I will brush through the high-level issues. After me, I shall ask the Commissioner General, who will deep dive a little bit into the numbers issues. And then, of course, to polish them, the Director of Finance will speak to that. And as usual, our boss, the Corporate Secretary, will speak about governance issues. And I'm also told that she warned me yesterday about timekeeping. She repeated. This morning she phoned me at 5 a.m. and they said, the chairman, can you be on time? And please, can you stick to time limits? Thank you. But you know what? Once I'm standing here with this mic, shareholders, the synoptic high-level issues for 2025 signals an intentional strategic move that was undertaken by this organization since the beginning of 2021, wherein a deliberate business decision was made that ZIMRA cannot continue to deliver value when it uses a physical, a human endeavor, a system to collect revenue. It can't. You cannot rely on human effort, sweat and toil. But what we need to do is to migrate into a digitally enabled, technology-enabled business platforms that takes away the physical effort and pushes you into the real value, real-time value of collecting your revenue. And so, as your board, we look at the end of 2025 because it is very important as it signals the end of 2021 to 2025 NDS1 strategy. And so we take note and take stock of what is it that we are achieving. The first one, it's landmark, which was a successful close of 2021-2025 transformation agenda, where the business has been transformed, as I said, from manual intervention to digitally enabled intervention. That has been a major milestone. The second one is that in terms of its performance progressive from 2021 revenue collection up to 2025, the revenue collection has been on the upward trend in real terms. Upward trend in real terms. For example, in 2025, the revenue collected was 7.2 billion, surpassing the previous year, US equivalent. That is significant performance, yeah, and things do happen, yeah. The third important issue was around institutional modernization. The digital platforms, service innovations, all these issues were implemented and achieved by year 2025. And of course, it resulted in customer experience service delivery improvement. On the governance and quality, your organization was awarded ISO 9001-2015, which is a signal of the confidence in terms of what we do, the quality of what we do, reliability and credibility. That was a major milestone in our view. And what it does is now to set your organization ready, having delivered the first chunk 2021-25, it's now ready to be in the 2026-2030. So your organization is now ready to embrace the National Development Strategy number 2. Next. And let me just touch a few highlights on the digital transformation, because this is a central issue of this organization. The foundation was born, of course, in 2021, aligned to NDS1. And we started introducing various digital platforms. Single window introduced in 2022. And then in 2023, the contact center and the TAMS, tax and revenue management systems, were implemented in 2023. In 2024, the part of the integration, which is a major value addition investment, we managed to introduce the e-tariffs, a SCUDA upgrade, phase 1 and 2, fiscal data management system was also introduced in 2024. This is the second segment from the terms to integration of our business, so that we relate with the 360 ecosystem in terms of revenue collection. And of course, 2025, we call it the year of platform upgrades. And here we upgraded the ECT, electronic cargo tracking systems, FDMS, and the ERP, SAP, and HANA were upgraded. These tools, as implemented, makes us ready to have an organization fit for purpose, ready to embrace 2026, 2030. Next. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is trite for me to say the work of ZIMRA, it's reflected in our country's infrastructure development, social services, education and capital, human capital, as well as the sustainable economic growth. We believe directly we are part of the 6.6% GDP growth last year. We are directly part of that. And so the key pillars which we dealt with it, which is part of our mandate, domestic resource mobilization, the results are attested to that. Trade facilitation, yes indeed, there still remains our challenges, but by and large, the speed with which we are processing, whether it's commercial goods or travelers through our ports of entry and exit, has significantly improved. The digital inclusion program, as I have already said, it's part of making business easy and friendly. And of course, the issue of transparency and inclusion is a critical issue. In doing so, we also measure with best practices and regional comparators to measure our own performance. Next. Now, one of the key issues in 2025, our management spent time was to engage with our stakeholders, because it is critically important that we gauge the pulse of our stakeholders. What are the issues? And indeed, during those consultations, a lot of feedback was given to us, which informs part of our strategic agenda to 26, 30, through that engagement program. And the engagement program with the key stakeholders continue, both large and small. Will continue into the 26, 2030 agenda program. Next. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I just brush through our key mandate, of course, aligned to an NDS2. That is critical. Revenue mobilization, it's very clear we are expected to broaden and deepen the tax base. Broaden and deepen the tax base. That is our mission as we proceed into 26, 2030. To strengthen compliance and to deal with the issues of leakages, ladies and gentlemen, it is a matter that we are expected to deal with, and deal with quite decisively. And to ensure, of course, transparency and continue the program of education and engagement. The digital transformation and innovation to make it even easier and more friendly to conduct business with the ZIMRA, it's one of the key enablers that we embrace as we move forward. And particularly important, the intelligent data insights platforms, we are expected to heighten those. The future is about data, clever, smarter information. And that is part of our agenda as we move forward. We believe also to achieve those issues, we need the human capital and the people transformation in order to deliver the ambition that we have. We believe that the issues of governance and risk management, upholding integrity, accountability, and proactive risk management are fundamentally important as we drive the business going forward. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I have said to you, there are a lot of issues, things that we have transformed, we have changed for good. And there's a lot of things that still needs to be done as we move forward. Clearly, there would be challenges. And this board is alive to the challenges that we face. One of them, of course, as already reported in matters arising, relates to funding sustainability. And that issue still needs to be addressed and bedded. Infrastructure readiness is an important issue, that the infrastructure must continue to be upgraded so that indeed it relates to the mandate and expectation of this organization as we move forward. And of course, there are issues around reporting. The auditor is here. We'll speak to that issue. Suffice for me as chairman to say that the audit has been completed. There are no issues around misstatements or misrepresentation that were identified by the audit. There are no issues of that nature. Of course, the auditor makes pertinent comment around the need for compliance with IPSAS, and that the auditor will speak to. And indeed, I'm sure my colleagues will also touch on it later. We deal with a burgeoning informal economy. The informal economy remains a big challenge. This economy, we believe, close to 70%. Other people put it even higher than that, is in the informal sector. But we as an organization, we are supposed to relate with the informal sector and ensure that we onboard them for revenue collection in order to comply. And so it is a matter that will require continuous innovative ideas. When you look at other economies really around us, one of the key issues is investing in appropriate technology, as I've mentioned, but also to upscale the human resources base so that the intensity per population indicator also is raised. When you do that, it also raises the revenue collection to GDP, which are very important issue as a major performance issue. I'm pleased to say that when the finance director presents her numbers, you will also see that this institution has been able to contain the cost of collection within international benchmarks. That has been consistent going back to 2022 to the present day. We've always operated within the benchmark that is below 3%. We are pleased about that. And then, of course, on the other side, outside the informal sector, we do face the challenges around the cash economy. And once you have the cash economy, it makes it very difficult for transaction visibility and compliance. Now, as I've said to you, we are investing in integration technology so that we integrate with the likes of the municipalities. We integrate with those. We complete integration with the banks and other organizations that will assist us to ultimately be able to enforce compliance as best as we should. So that is something that we believe in addressing these strategic priorities will strengthen institutional resilience, accelerating digital transformation, position ZIMRA for sustainable revenue growth. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, governance continuity and board renewal remains a very important issue. First and foremost, at the executive level, I'm delighted to report that we now have a full complement of our executives in positions. When we took over, we did not have a single permanent executive. Most of them were just acting. with the exception of one or two. They were just acting. Now, we are happy that we have a full complement. At the board level, 3 of our board members retired at the end of December when their terms had come to an end. I want to pay particular respect and appreciation to the invaluable contribution that these board members made during their time. Namely, Memory Ngui, from an HR perspective, was a bellwether board member upon whom we relied immensely for wise counsel. We had Isaac Kwesu, who played a significant role in guiding us around economic issues which have a direct impact on the business. And finally, but not the least, Mai Matambo, Josephine Matambo, who was also the vice chairperson, a highly dependable individual, hardworking individual, whose voice mattered most on the board. We really thank those board members for acquitting themselves well. During this year, 3 other board members will be retiring, but we are aware that the ministry is dealing with that issue as a matter of urgency to make sure that the transition is as seamless as practically possible and minimize the disruption. So, ladies and gentlemen, that just gives you a brief flavor from the board's eagle eye perspective of your organization, where I'm saying to you, we inherited an organization, we have transformed this organization. It is stronger than it was before. Its performance speaks to the wise investment that has taken place. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you that highlight. Thank you. Now, can I now come back to shareholders if there are any comments or questions arising from the chairman's comments? Comments? Questions? Hello, sir. We need a roving mic, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure whether this is the appropriate time for asking the question that I have. It relates to system challenges.
Someone might need to assist so that we hear what the colleague is saying. Can we have someone to render an ear and interpret what he wants to ask?
I was aware of my deficit, so I turned down.
Thank you, Board Chairperson. Our read is given the question. After the reporting date, ZIMRA discontinued the customs prepayment account system following the identification of system-related irregularities. The report states that 34.68% of the produce ZWG amounts and 72.93% of the produced USD amounts has been recovered. The outstanding balances were recognized as debt. It further states that all prepayment balances were validated and adjusted, and that the validated balances were used to amend the balances reported in the 2025 financial statements.
Okay, just before you proceed, as a matter of order, let's discuss that issue under the finance report when we are presenting the finance report.
Thank you.
Keep that question under finance report, indeed raise that issue. Hello, sir.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I want to appreciate the developments.
Just
which-
mention your name so that we know.
My name is William Mandisoza. I'm the ICA's CEO.
Okay.
I want to appreciate the developments which we have presented. I have attended, I think this is my 6th or 7th AGM. I can confirm that I think I can see progress both on governance and performance of the organization, which is very, very important. I think you alluded to fully complementing the management. Probably that is why we are seeing results. But my point, Chairman, is on an area you presented around broadening the tax base. I know it's a policy issue, but you are closer to business. I was wondering whether the board can take up the role where they can inform the Minister of Finance on how we can tax effectively. There were reports, I think this week, that 70% of our economy is now in the SMEs. Our tax base has remained very formal, but it may be for us to actually have it as a matter arising in this meeting, that we task you to go and research and then inform policy. How do we actually structure our tax so that we can broaden the base?
Okay.
That's my question.
Thank you very much. We take it as guidance. It will be captured under the matters arising, which we will carry forward and report to the meeting. Suffice to say, indeed, as part of our mandate, we have an advisory role to government. And indeed, such issues are under our remit to always explore ways and means of broadening and deepening tax collection base. We will be reporting at the next AGM as progress matter. Next question, please. Thank you. Just identify yourself and make your questions very short, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Fungai Bongai from EY. I just want to comment on the issues that you raised, specifically the challenges around cash economy and also the challenges around informal sector that this guy mentioned. So I just wanted to find out from you that you also mentioned the fact that to some extent we have started to implement integration with, for example, city council and banks to try and address some of these challenges. So my question is, for the period under review, are there any indications that there is an improvement in collecting tax from the informal sector through the integration of city council and the banks?
Thank you very much indeed. I can, let me see my colleagues on the board. Someone there must ask. Yeah. Yeah, she's a board member, so it's okay. CG, can you answer? The question is very clear.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Wongai. I was hoping we can then cover it in our presentation.
You've got an answer in your presentation.
Yes, we can speak to that in the presentation.
Keep it at the back of your mind. When she presents, you can raise the issue. Next, who else? All right, sir.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes.
My name is Mr. Wickmore Omera, the chairman for the Zimbabwe Network of Customs and Excise Experts.
Welcome, sir.
Let me start by maybe commending or applauding your board for some things well done. When you spoke about terms, when you speak about improving things at the ports of entry, may I confidently say yes, we can see some progress. But as much as we see progress, I think we pick some things which we feel you can do better. Trade facilitation is truly a key factor when we talk about customs. But I often say trade facilitation doesn't end at the port of entry. It is looked at until we get to the end of the chain. So you realize that there are some issues that we applauded you for even in the last AGM, that you have actually brought in the issue of post-clearance audits and enforcements, which we are happy with because it increases the revenue that you are collecting. But in the processes, we feel you might want to change some systems or help improve. We realize your roadblocks are including people from ZAC, from the CID. Sometimes they say we are from the ministry. We are not worried much about where they come from. What we know is they are ZIMRA, because whatever they are doing is to improve customs procedures. But usually when we include people from other security agencies, there is bound to be collusion in the form of the procedures that these different departments follow. We have discovered that when the roadblocks are being done, trucks are being stopped, let's say in Rutenga, and they are told to go back. Thank you, Chairman. They are told to go back to the border. My point is, let's keep on the roadblocks, but may you, with your colleagues, try to say any truck that is targeted does not go back to the border post, because there is a cost in doing that. And they are not necessarily guilty. Some of them are found to be innocent, so that you are not being blamed for doing the correct things. That's my point on that one. And also, you talked about delivering. We are happy, and we can say, Madam Commissioner General, your executive, your management is doing well. We can see some improvements, although it might need to be cascaded to the officers. So you talked about staff recruitments. You might help the Commissioner General by allowing them to recruit more staff, because we are having problems in having our appeals on certain cases to be responded to, which we also believe and have assessed to see that it's maybe because of the staff shortages. So a delayed response to an appeal, I feel, is a denial to justice. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, if that can be addressed. Thank you so much.
We deliberately allowed you to occupy that much space because of the importance that you play in our partnership. CG, do you want to answer very quickly? But I noticed that most of the comments are to guide us on the way forward.
I think I am guided in terms of my presentation. I'll respond to the questions and the issues raised accordingly. Thank you.
If there is any. Yes, the gentleman here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Farai Dube. I'm the Vice President of MCOS and also the CEO of Institute of Admin and Commerce. My question is regarding those who are trading, mainly in cash. I don't see other investors. I only see Zimbabweans in here. Most of our investors coming from Asia, they are transacting in cash. How effective are you in terms of collecting that tax?
Okay, the straight answer is that this is a gray market. And when people are operating under the radar, it will be foolhardy for anyone to say we are effective. You can only be effective if you know what is happening, to the bottom detail, so that at least you can put in place strategies to deal with that. But we don't know. This is a gray market. It's an issue that continues to attract the attention of the state at a much higher level, implementing whatever measures needs to be put in place. But indeed, it's a problem area. It's not only in Zimbabwe, it happens everywhere. Where there's a cash economy, it's very difficult to deal with. But that is not to say we are not doing anything to deal with those issues. Except that I can't utter what we are doing munozopunyutsa dziri muhomwe. Yeah. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your comments. I see the boss is very excited in calling me to order. I now want us to move on to the ordinary business issues. No, we've done that already. Let me see. We now move on to the Commissioner General. Okay. So yes, I'm being reminded, my mind is a little bit further down in order to meet the time requirements of our, right. Can I have someone to propose the adoption of the chairman's report? Yes, thank you. Seconder, please. Thank you, sir. The report is adopted. Can I invite the Commissioner General to give us a very brief rundown of our operation? Thank you.
I think I will adopt the precedence set by the chairperson. A very good morning. I'll write on the protocols already observed. So as ZIMRA management, we are driving service excellence through integrity, innovation, and sound governance. We are also committed to implementing ZIMRA's mandate of revenue mobilization, facilitating trade and travel, advising government on fiscal and economic matters, and protecting the civil society. So last year, we had stability in the economy, and this really propelled us to perform in the way we did. On the macroeconomic front, I think the foundations were solid. We had a projected 8.3% GDP growth. We had forex receipts growing. We also had inflation, the ZIG inflation at 15%, and I think the most important factor was the exchange rate. I think for us, a movement in the exchange rate becomes a nightmare, especially in a multi-currency environment. We also have the formal and cash economy that the chairperson has already alluded to, and our thrust was really to focus on how best we can incorporate the untaxable and ensure that we create equity and fairness within the tax system. We also want to take note that there was a rebasing in 2025 of the GDP, I think around May, thereabout, which meant that our tax to GDP that we had been tracking, which I think IMF had confirmed at 18.3%, went down significantly to around 15%. In spite of that, there were higher DRM requirements, which is your domestic resource mobilization, which were going to inform, I think, the preparation of the NDS2 and the Vision 2030. We also had, I think, coming in from government, a huge requirement around service delivery. So there are expectations, and I am cognizant that some stakeholders here are looking at what efforts are we putting in place to improve service delivery. So what was our performance at a glance? 1 year, 3 outcomes. I think first and foremost, clap for us, we won the RBM award winner for 2025. I think we take feedback and challenges positively. 2024, we were run-up, and we went back and asked ourselves, really? Really? We collect 95% of government revenue and we come up as a second runner-up? No, it can't be. So we are happy that we managed to be recognized. And what were we recognized for? Revenue growth, revenue collections, actual cash getting to the treasury. We collected an equivalent of 7.56 billion against the target of 7.2 equivalent. We also had a strategy implementation success rate of 83.87. I think that was significant. And Chairman has already spoken to the institutional modernization. That is enhancing the authority to be future ready and to ensure that systems, services, and controls are strengthened. Can move forward. So I'll speak to the key mandate. If you see us, you see the dollars. So these are the dollars on a high level. Collections rose by 67.8% over the 5 years. And this is US equivalent. So we are really tracking value addition, that is, we are bringing to government, as we are the core revenue collector. So we had 7.5 billion being our equivalent, being our collections, an absolute gain of 3.09 billion. 2025 growth was 23.8% year on year. And we are excited that the investment that ministry and our portfolio committee was supporting us to ensure that we invest on technology. I think it's bearing fruit. I think we can move forward. And where was the revenue coming from? 73% of the revenue came from 4 taxes, which is synonymous with international standards. You've got your core taxes, which bring in the bulk of the revenue. And we've got our VAT, pay-as-you-earn, excise, and corporate tax being the cash cows. And what is critical, I'll draw your attention to the revenue mix per tax category. We've got indirect taxes contributing more to the revenue at 58.63%, and our direct taxes at 41.37%. I think what is also critical is, in as much as the direct taxes drive our revenue collection, but we are also putting effort to ensure that the corporate tax perform. I think it's critical that we create equity in terms of capital, taxation of capital vis-a-vis taxation of income tax. So, we also have a revenue concentration risk there. So we are also focusing on ensuring that we expand and incorporate all taxable agents within the other revenue heads so that we don't create that risk. In the event that there's poor performance of those 4 core revenue heads, it means that sustainability is also affected. We can move forward. And which sectors contributed to the revenue? We have 5 sectors contributing 83% of the revenue, which is your finance and insurance sector, information and communication, manufacturing, mining and quarry, wholesale and retail. Again, there's a huge revenue risk. If you look at the developments that happened this year, who knows what else is going to happen? I think the global environment is becoming very unpredictable. So we are also focusing on ensuring that the other sectors contribute. At 80%, we think it's a high risk. But we are happy that at least the mining sector is now contributing significantly at 14.99% to the revenue collections. We can move forward. In terms of compliance and service delivery, we believe that we need to build trust. We are the agent, or the agent implementing the social contract between government and its citizens. And we are building trust one taxpayer at a time. Is it sufficient? Yes, we are seeing some progress. I think our stakeholders can also attest. The issue around expansion of the tax base, ensuring that there is equity, as we believe $1 contributes $1, a million taxpayers contributing $1 brings $1 million. So we are expanding our tax base, and last year we managed to register additional taxpayers amounting to 73,619. Is it big enough? No, the cake is still there. The cake is still there. The harvest is plenty. Yeah, we need more foot soldiers to ensure that we harvest. We take on board the the informal or the unregistered. I think PSO has redirected us and said it's not informal. It's only that ZIMRA has not captured those taxpayers. We also implemented the contact center, and we are happy that there is growth in utilization, and our contact center is open 6 to 10, which ensures that we can deliver service at any hour of the day. We also did 539 tax education workshops, and we are happy to report that we have been going, our tax base is diverse. So we've got large clients who can afford tax consultants. We have got the smaller clients who need information directly from ZIMRA. So we are making effort to ensure that we cover the full spectrum of our tax base, and we reach out and give them information. We are also happy to report that our taxpayer satisfaction index rose from 69% to 72%. So we are doing something positive. And dispute resolution is also a contentious issue. I think you always find us in the newspapers, but we are happy that both internally and externally, we have managed to achieve an 88% dispute resolution rate, which ensures that we create predictability and we create certainty even for the taxpayers and the business. And we initiated 299 prosecutions to drive compliance. If you look at the compliance signals, they're not looking good, which might cause us to then implement certain strategies to ensure that everybody complies. For example, your on-time filing rate is still sitting at 32%, whilst good practice benchmarks around 90%. Remittance rate is 57.49%. So what does it mean? I know we had an altercation, I think, beginning of year regarding tax clearance certificate. We have automated. However, tax clearance is a compliance improvement tool. So you then find that we have tried to take into cognizance the feedback that we received, and we have staggered our issuance 1 month so that we can assist the taxpayers to comply 3 months and 6 months for those who are complying. And move forward. Impact of business digital solutions. I think Chairman spoke about the initiatives that we implemented, and we've been trying to also assess the impact. For TAMS, this is the domestic taxes system, but it's anchoring the business, the broader taxation business for the organization. And we have seen an increase in domestic revenue, direct domestic revenue from 2023 to 2025 when we implemented TAMS. We've also seen a growth in taxpayer registration. Return filing has also grown. And we are now issuing online ITF 263 if there are no issues. But you know, there are others, taxpayer that we are assisting. They have to apply, and we do necessary intervention. We also have the FDMS, which we are using to support our terms in terms of validation of data and improving turnaround times regarding refunds. We can move forward. I can see the chairman is now the timekeeper. Facilitation of legitimate trade while protecting revenue and civil society. I think that one, I will then respond, I think, to the issue that had been raised. Facilitation of legitimate trade. We are putting in place measures to ensure, one, we improve on turnaround times. We also modernize facilities, and we put in place faster enforcement, and also we protected the revenue and civil society. We are implementing a Customs and Excise Act. I think it's a principally revenue act. So we have to balance. We have to balance ensuring that fiscus get its money through the Revenue Act whilst we facilitate trade. And obviously the issues around enforcement. I spoke about the compliance rate. If we have low compliance rate, as a tax administration, there is normally a move to ensure that you put in place mitigation solutions. We also get feedback from business I think there were serious issues that were raised around ensuring that there is uniformity in the market, in the domestic market. So you have people who are smuggling goods and selling in the same market where the formal businesses are operating. So you find, as government, this was feedback which was given to government, not necessarily ZIMRA, it was given back to government. So government had to put in place mechanism to ensure that they augment the designated agencies and give them the necessary support to ensure that we mitigate that issue. So, when you then see us incorporating other agencies, it's a government position to say business had fed back and said you are creating an uneven economic platform. So you need to take measures to ensure that those who are already complying and paying tax are not necessarily squeezed out of business by non-compliant players. Presence of ZAC is not present at the roadblocks. ZAC comes in as a second layer of governance, not at the roadblocks. I also want to clarify that we don't mount roadblocks alone. We don't operate at the borders alone. We also have security agents that sit at the border to provide support for us because we are not an armed organization. So we are dealing with entry of goods, and goods can be anything. Goods can be drugs, they can be arms. So we also need support coming in from government. So the presence of other agencies at roadblocks is very normal. But ZAC is not sitting at the roadblocks. We have our discussions around that, and I think we should be seeing better enforcement going forward. I just want to speak to the issues around the COMESA e-certificate, which is, I think, a positive facilitation tool. You don't need to come in and do the paperwork. We have also the authorized economic operator. And I think this one, we are starting to see traction, but we are marketing it more so that those who are compliant can enjoy faster clearance turnaround. And our canine operations, I think our dogs are doing an excellent job in sniffing the prohibited goods there. I think we can move forward. Human capital. Yes, there was an issue around the number of staff. We had 3,194 at the end of the year. But what we have done is also to look at the workload analysis, which would be moving forward in this current year to ensure that we right-size our business. We put in place the necessary resources to ensure that we provide the services that is required. One key issue is revenue per staff member. Each staff member is contributing 2.4 million per year. And in terms of inclusivity issues, gender, obviously your CEO is female, so we are tracking the gender issue and making sure that our like is represented. So we have 45%, and we are tracking 50% as per government directive. And women in management, I think we are happy at 44.5%. I think that's a significant metric for us. And we are looking at capacitation of our staff members with new skills. I was reading an article, and China has scrapped 20,000 degree programs, which are now irrelevant. So if we are looking at that, we have to align and ensure that we create skills for. We can move forward. So what is the status for 2026? The momentum continues. 2025, we collected equivalent of 7.65 billion. Q1, we have already surpassed our target, and we grew our revenue on a year-on-year, quarter by quarter, by 44%. By June 17, we're at 47.1% growth. And the future is clear and certain. We are going to exceed the target, which has been set at 9.2 billion equivalent. So we are actually challenging ourselves to say, as RBZ is looking at 1 digit, we are looking at 2 digits in terms of revenue collections. And on that note, I want to appreciate our ministry, which is our parent Ministry of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion. Our minister, deputy minister, PS. You can see the big team here, Mr. Sata, from a funding perspective, Madam Zondo, for providing policy guidance, strategic support and stewardship, which has enabled ZIMRA to deliver on its mandate during 2025. We also want to acknowledge and appreciate our parliamentary committees. We report to budget, we report to PAC, we always have issues, and there's a national collector. The auditor is doing a very thorough job on us, and we are held accountable at PAC. We also have the Parliamentary Committee on Industry and Commerce on the trade facilitation side. They are here. We thank you for always calling us, and iron sharpens iron. We can only get better if you are being sharpened. We also want to thank the ZIMRA board. This, I don't know, this must be the most active board in all parastatals. And I now totally understand. I think at one point we were like, too many meetings. But without the board support, ZIMRA is a big animal. It has got many issues. And without the board actively taking time, pushing us, squeezing us, these results will not be there. So we really appreciate you. I also want to thank our management, the EXCO team, the staff members here. I can see our union is here represented, and nowadays they are really pushing us and say, we want resources, we want to deliver, we want to collect revenue. And that is cooperation. We really want to appreciate you. Without you, the management and staff, the union, we wouldn't have achieved those results. We also want to thank our taxpayers and stakeholders. I can see the BMOs are represented here. I can see the tax agents, the clearing agents. I know we are having very healthy conversations regarding regulations. PAAB is here, the regulator, your regulator. I'm just an agent. As ZIMRA, you are always squeezed from all over. But we really appreciate the effort as we collaborate to ensure that we collect, we facilitate trade and travel. And all the other stakeholders that I have mentioned that are supporting us in our mandate, I thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, CG. Before we move on to the next presenter, may I acknowledge the presence of the Member of Parliament, Honorable Ngwe. He is a member of the Budget, Finance and Investment Promotion Portfolio. Thank you very much for gracing our occasion. We appreciate it. Thank you. The next presenter, the good news is no salutations, no appreciations. Straight to the numbers, and she sits down. The Director of Finance, I thank you.
Morning, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you for the welcome, Chairman. So I'll go straight to the numbers. So in terms of the revenue, I think the Chairman and the Commissioner General have already alluded to our stellar performance. When you look at the trends, I like the trend line. It's going in a positive direction. And the 7.65 is the highest in the history of ZIMRA. Maybe we can just give ZIMRA a round of applause. So the CG also touched on the target for the year, and she said double digits. The target that were given by ministry is 9.2, but because we always exceed, she's pushing and she's stretching us to achieve double digits. So when you look at the 9.2, we've already achieved 47.2% of that, and we should outperform the remaining. Then key financial highlights relating to the grant as well as the exchequer. The performance has been very strong, and even on the grant point of view, our income increased. This is really buttressed by what is required. So from the revenue grant, our income increased. These are ZIG numbers, 5.95, up 76%. Our expenditure also increased by 105%. This is really to support operational capacity and the ability to be able to collect more enforcements, more audits, more costs to allow us to be able to meet the mandate. Revenue collected, I will not speak on it. And then the cost of collection. The previous year, the cost of collection was 2.03%. It's come down to 2%. Just a round of applause for ZIMRA. And then in terms of other income, we've got donation income, we've got interest income and other income sources. Our interest income increased. This is really sweating what is sitting in our bank accounts. So it increased by 233% and the contribution increased to 1.7%. So essentially, we had very strong income growth. We invested in instances where there is excess. This is from the grant, the money that is given for our use. We also negotiated for higher interest rates. We improved efficiency, and ultimately the result there too is a better cost of collection. And then in terms of ratios, our balance sheet grew by 45% and our net assets grew by 46.4%. The growth, grant funding, this is for the grant funding, as well as some fair value movement in PPE and investment property. We also have our canines also organically growing, which also contributed to the growth. And then total assets, 25.5% of the total assets are liquid assets to cover for the requirements of the entity. And then our current asset cover is 2.2. And for those that understand accounting, this is a good ratio. So essentially, the authority's financial position was quite strong when you look at the numbers. And then in terms of the investments in CAPEX, I think the chairman and the CG have spoken about digitalization. So 289.1 million was invested in capital expenditure during the year. This went into plant and machinery, and our plant and machinery includes scanners, it includes drones, it includes, which are really for capacitation of us to be able to do the work. ICT infrastructure, network equipment, motor vehicles, as well as physical infrastructure being buildings for staff to live in. So essentially, there was an increase of 31.4%. And really what it is that we're focusing on were to support our programs, which are number one, revenue mobilization, as well as the second being policy and governance, which then speaks to service delivery and capacitating the business. So under revenue mobilization, we have border management, we have compliance, we've got audits, all are supporting revenue mobilization. And then with regards to our financial statements, I'll start with 2024. So for 2024, we had 4 reports that were unqualified, and we had 3 returns that, sorry, we had 4 reports that were unqualified, and we had 3 returns that were qualified. So let me situate it. So in 2024, when we audited, we had the grant, which is the Revenue Authority. Then we had ministry returns. Those are the 6 returns: the trust accounts, outstanding revenue return return of, tax reserve certificate, and receipts and disbursement certificates. So of these 7 in total, 4 were unqualified and 3 were qualified. The matters that caused qualification were as follows. Number 1, private import debt. Number 2, removal in transit. Number 3, temporary import permits. Number 4, completeness of deferred VAT penalties and interest. I'm glad to say that all these matters were resolved. So post the audit, what then happened is, this is an event after balance sheet date, around March, I've forgotten the exact date. We received correspondence from ministry that then said, from an IPSAS point of view, from their side, we now needed to change from returns to full financial statements for ministry results. So as a result, we then changed the returns that we had done and then went on to prepare 2 sets of financial statements. So the 2 sets of financial statements that we audited, there were 2 things that then translated. The first, the grant, we received a clean and unqualified opinion. The second, the exchequer, we received qualification, and the qualification matters are as shown. The first, functional currency. About 70%, I think we spoke to it, or someone spoke to it earlier, about 70% of the revenue was collected in US dollars. So that creates an expectation that the functional currency is US dollars. So our response to that issue is we've engaged ministry and they are awaiting government guidance on the functional currency determination for us as we are a state-owned enterprise. We expect this to be resolved imminently by the 31st of July. The second is the exchequer TB. Like I said before, we used to prepare returns. Now it's a full set of financial statements. And in turn, the revenue systems in ZIMRA, they are not yet fully automated and integrated. So that limited the generation of a complete and system-based trial balance or a trial balance, and it required manual processes. This is a legacy issue that is being resolved via digitalization. So our response is we are in the middle of SAP upgrade, which should significantly assist. We are also automating some of the customs processes that are still manual. And the revenue systems will be integrated in the upgraded SAP system in order for us to complete and deliver an accurate system-based trial balance. We should complete this by end of year, so next year we shouldn't have this issue. And the last qualification issue was an issue of our digitalization journey. So in as much as we do have a mining royalties database, there were some inconsistencies and incompleteness around the classification. I'm pleased to say that this issue has been resolved. We've already cleaned up the database. Thank you.
Director of Finance, I ask now the Company Secretary to take us through governance issues.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. You had at one point referred to me as the boss, and I thought you were going to be consistent. Okay. So I've been asked to make a presentation on governance, and I think by way of highlights and overview. Maybe before that, again, on a lighter note, because I'm a compliance and governance professional, in case you observe major differences on what the pictures are saying and the real faces that have been presenting, please blame it on AI and not on the people. Thank you. ZIMRA legal and institutional framework. We are a creature of statute, the Revenue Authority Act being the main act providing for the mandate issues of the institution. Governance, corporate governance, we are looking at the Public Entities Corporate Governance Act, setting the comprehensive governance standards for the institution, public finance management, as reported by the Finance Director. We are guided by the Public Finance Management Act and other acts and regulations. Again, by way of highlight, the ZIMRA governance structure. At the very top is the parent ministry, the Ministry of Finance, which provides ultimate oversight authority on the affairs of ZIMRA. The Board of Directors providing strategic direction and on issues of governance. The board then delegates authority to the different board committees, specifically the board committees that were in operation in the year under review, which is 2025. We do have the Human Resources Committee, the Operations Committee, the Audit Committee, Finance and Admin Committee, Integrity, Risk and ICT Committee. The chair spoke about the transfer of ICT affairs of the institution. Composition of the board, it's a 12-member board, 10 independent non-executive directors, 2 ex-officio members. I'll move to speak to issues of compliance with mandate expectations. I think the key mandate for ZIMRA is revenue mandate is consent, so we are compliant in that respect. Issue of advisory role, I think this was raised by one of the delegates asking or giving us an assignment in terms of how we should then relate at a policy advisory level, informing the issue of taxing the informal sector going forward. So again, it's an issue that ZIMRA takes very seriously. We have structures in place around engagement and liaison with the ministry on tax policy advisory. Then trade facilitation arm is a key mandate issue for the authority. Again, we are compliant. I was happy when one of the presenters, again, one of the speakers mentioned and commended ZIMRA for what they are seeing insofar as initiatives around efficiencies at our ports of entry in the area of trade facilitation. So we record that again as an area that we are doing well as an institution. I now want to speak to corporate governance compliance around how the institution is directed and controlled. I spoke about board composition, executive management, recruitment. The chairman spoke about that. Remuneration and human resources issues. The remuneration of the board is in terms of approved frameworks, the corporate governance unit. Performance management by the institution. This is in terms of integrated results-based management, a government performance management system. We are compliant in that respect. Having been assessed based on our results last year, this is what resulted in the institution getting an award as the best performer. 26 to 2030 that the chairman spoke about, it's in terms of that performance management framework. Board evaluation conducted, it then informs the improvement areas and capacitation programs for the year. Issues of staff capacitation, I think the CG spoke about that. Meetings, again, I think these were held as indicated there. Then financial oversight, accountability and procurement compliance. There, I think, issue of preparation of financial statements, they've given an opportunity to also give their highlights in terms of what they picked in the last audit. We also have a very robust internal audit function that conducts internal audits throughout the year, where the board management then tracks the implementation of recommendations from the audits, both external and internal, and then have that as a performance area from across the organization at board level, commissioner general level, executive management throughout the organization. So we take issues of audit and accountability very seriously. Transparency and reporting, again, we are compliant as an institution in that respect. Issues of reporting on our affairs through our annual reports, monthly revenue outturn reports that are submitted to the Ministry of Finance, submission of resolutions to the line ministry and CGU, submission of board minutes to the Auditor General. So this is some of the initiatives or what we are doing insofar as transparency and reporting is concerned. Procurement compliance. The Procurement Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe conducts monitoring and evaluation initiatives. So having assessed our performance over the year, what we are seeing from the reports is that we are doing well as an institution, procuring within our budget, special procurement oversight case compliance levels standing at 99%. So again, we are doing very well in that area. In the area of ethics, risk, and integrity, this is an issue that is taken very seriously at leadership meeting. We also proactively, as an institution, address issues of revenue leakages, tax evasion, and smuggling. I think as was highlighted, the roadblocks that were mentioned, again, these are all issues around risk management. Then declaration of assets, because we deal with money issues as an institution, it's imperative that at all times we give an account of the assets versus the income. So declaration of interest, declaration of asset by the board and management, and lifestyle audits regularly for staff. Risk management, I already spoke about that. Integrity promotion, I think here the emphasis is on what we are doing as an institution, partnering with other enforcement agents. Key there is the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Committee, the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, the ZIMRA Financial Intelligence Unit, and also to highlight that as a commitment to upholding integrity as an institution at leadership level, the board signed integrity pledges with the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, and executive management is going to be cascaded across the organization. In the area of cybersecurity, data protection, compliance, because this is topical, we're an institution that handles huge volumes of data. We are very much cognizant of the requirements under that act, and we are paying full attention to what is expected of that. So by way of highlight, legal and regulatory compliance, I think we have ticked almost all the boxes in that respect, and we have also embedded issues of data security and cyber security and data protection in our core systems. Issues of ESG as an institution, again, we are compliant on the environmental front. We are moving towards green energy. The plan on the next 5-year cycle is to move towards solarizing most of our stations, use of e-platforms, participation in the national cleanup campaigns, tree planting. On the social impact, we have a very vibrant ZIMRA Charity Trust Fund, where as we speak, we have over 12 students with different tertiary institutions whose fees are being paid through the ZIMRA Charity Trust. Internally, because we are a family, we do have a taxman's curve for the tax collectors. They get time to retreat, go and have conversations on a social level. The same applies to ZIMRA women in taxation. We have platforms like that. Governance, I spoke about what we are doing in the area of integrity promotion. We also have an anti-corruption and whistleblower initiative. Specifically, we have a hotline. In case, for those that didn't know, we have a hotline that is independently managed by one of the accounting firms, where people can report the cases, they are referred to ZIMRA, they are investigated. You are then given feedback on the outcome of the investigation. So please, you are encouraged. Whenever you see that there is some misstepping happening, you must report, and the issues will be taken seriously. At this point, I would like to end and hand back to the chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, boss. We appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had 3 presentations. The Commissioner General, the Head of Finance, and then, of course, Head of Corporate Affairs. Can I have any comments on the 3 submissions, if any? At the back, I hope you have recovered your voice, or you've got a spokesperson somewhere near. Make it short, please, very short. Yeah, and for the records, identify yourself.
Thank you, Board Chairperson. Dube Washington is my name. Although maybe for the sake of the record, I'm reading a question by Mr. Dr. Ndoro. Is Freight Trade Alliance Zimbabwe. Thank you. I'll just go straight away into the question. The question is, the annual report states that the customs prepayment account system was discontinued after identification of system-related irregularities, and that part of the produce amount has been recovered. Could the board elaborate on the nature and root cause of these irregularities, the total financial exposure, the governance measures taken to prevent recurrence, and how the transition to the payment after assessment addresses this weakness? I submit on behalf of Dr. Ndoro. Thank you, Board Chairperson.
Can I ask the CG to respond to that?
Thank you, Chairman. With digitalization, there's an increase in your digital footprint, and obviously issues of cybersecurity become are more apparent. And one of the breaches that we then disclosed in the annual report was regarding the prepayment account. So what we did, we discontinued the prepayment account given the risks that we had identified, and we put a cash, post-assessment cash payment methodology where you raise an assessment, you then go and pay at the bank, and you quote the assessment number. So that was one of the key interventions that we did to mitigate the risk. What we also did, we conducted, I think, further investigations through our Auditor General to ensure that we cover the gaps. And we are in the process of implementing recommendations that were done through the various investigations that were done on that one. But I think it's speaking to tightening our cybersecurity landscape. It's also speaking to dealing with issues of collusion, because the way there is a system and there are people, you are likely to get some incidents of that matter. And we have taken action on internal resources that were part and parcel of the risk, and we also dealt with external parties which were involved in the process. So we have taken corrective measures. We are also looking at tightening the cyber security of our system. We are also making efforts to recover the revenues that we had lost, and I think we are at around 32% on the USD and around 32% on the ZIG and above 50% on the USD. So recoveries are continuing as we speak. Thank you. I think there was another question, Chairperson, which I didn't respond, the issue around the cash economy. I think cash economy, we have a diverse tax base, so we don't speak to nationalities, I think, for the record. These are our taxpayers. In our Act, we don't have a definition for nationalities. We have a definition of who qualifies as a person, trust, or company. So we also want, I think, our stakeholders to dissociate from picking nationalities. If it's a non-compliance issue, it becomes a non-compliance issue from a taxpayer perspective. So the real issue is the cash economy, and it affects everyone, every taxpayer. So what are we doing to ensure that we capture and tax those who are outside the banking system? The expansion, the thrust around expansion of the tax base is to ensure that all eligible taxpayers, whether they are operating on a cash basis or they are formally bankable, they come on board. We are partnering with banks. Banks accept both online payments, cash payments. So we have put in place mechanism to ensure that our taxpayers, whichever way they are holding their monies, are able to go and pay. We have also taken measures, collaboration with the local authorities. We have a project which is currently running, which is anchored at Ministry of Local Government and Public Works, as they are the reporting ministry for all local councils, to ensure that councils put in place infrastructure that enables us to come and tax people adequately, because a tax system rides on structures and systems. So without that structure, especially in the urban areas, it becomes very difficult for us to tax. We have also taken an initiative. Last year we signed we joined the Global Forum I think about 2 years ago, and we are in the process of ensuring that we onboard onto the Multilateral Convention on Mutual Administrative Assistance on Tax Matters. This will then take care of cross-border transactions, because it's also an area of leakage. It's also an area that is riding on the cash economy, because there's movement of money, movement of precious, valuable items across borders. So we are hoping by August this year, we should have submitted a bill, our instrument to Paris, which will then enable us to get real-time exchange of information, which will then deal with other aspects, probably that are emanating from the cash economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, sir?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Board Chair. I'd just like to comment on the report that was given by our Commissioner General. She mentioned that 539 education workshops were... Sorry, I wanted to just get straight into the point as... Thank you. My name is Dominic Kunashe Machingura. I represent the Zimbabwe Customs for Excise and Customs Excise Experts. Thank you. So I was just mentioning that she mentioned that 539 education workshops were held by the ZIMRA, which was good. I'd like to acknowledge that I participated, I think, in about 2 of those workshops. I wanted to ask, though, might it be possible if the board, your capable board and ZIMRA, might think of introducing taxation knowledge and skills into the primary and secondary education system? My thinking is that if we do so lightly, not so aggressively, but lightly, it can help to further conscientize the general public. Because you find that a lot of us, we've started our businesses based on the skills that we get from school, our mathematics skills, geography, English. But you find that when we start our businesses, what lacks is our understanding or appreciation of taxation. So I think that if we could look into this, it might also escalate things. Yes, and I don't mind participating in that program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Honorable Ngwe.
Thank you. Mine is directed to the Commissioner General. I wanted to inquire about how far are you with the construction of your new head office? I heard you talking about infrastructure development and upgrading. And then the other one is on smuggling. I propose that there are some products which are already available in Zimbabwe, working with the Ministry of Industry and the Commerce. Why don't you come up with a policy, a proposal rather, of a total ban? Because for you to manage some of the unnecessary imports being created by people who are just spending their excess monies, while it's draining our economy, the potential revenues. I propose that you work with the Ministry of Industry and look for the products which are readily available in Zimbabwe. Then you make sure you don't have to make headaches on putting roadblocks and whatever. Just if you know that the supply is there in Zimbabwe, then why don't you just stop imports? Then on imports payments also, it can help you, let's say in terms of cash payment management system, in cash payments, which is affecting your revenue collection. Make it compulsory for all the importers to pay their imports in using formal banking system, local banking system in Zimbabwe. So any import which is coming in and not being paid through the formal banking system in Zimbabwe must attract a certain fee so that you don't have to scratch your head in enforcing the import bill. Also on the locally, you say they are facing challenges on goods which are being sold in cash. You can also now use the import bill versus the cash the cash sales. Obviously, the importer is going to sell. If the importer sells the goods in cash, and then the import bill was, well, let's say 1 billion, you all obviously expect more than 1 billion of sales. So just try to match the imports versus the sales being declared by the companies which are importing. I thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me ask the CG to respond as quickly as you can, please.
Thank you. I will speak to the issue on the construction of the head office. Last year, we did a groundbreaking ceremony, and we are in engagements with our parent ministry to ensure that we are funded going forward. But I think there is traction to ensure that we construct our own head office. And we take note of the smuggling issues, proposals around the smuggling issues. But I'm sure there are BMOs here, some representing manufacturers, some representing traders. So I don't want to comment right now to avoid issues around conflict of interest.
Sorry, let me ask Sekai to make a comment. There is no free lunch.
I was going to keep quiet and skip the lunch, Chairman, but thank you very much. I was actually going to make a comment on the smuggling as a matter of feedback. So the feedback that we have from industry is that there's been a great impact of the anti-smuggling activities. I think barring the operational challenges that may happen in the execution, which probably needs to be refined across the different participating agencies in the operation. But the impact at firm level has been felt, and volumes have come back that had displaced some of the locally manufactured products, particularly in the areas that were mostly affected. My own comment was going to be on the engagement with ZIMRA. I think one of the major improvements we have seen is structured engagement. So we actually have a structured agenda for the year, which is based on issues that are raised by different companies. And our ask was going to be that maybe as ZIMRA tracks its own performance, is to track over the year of engagement how many of those issues have actually been resolved and what remains unresolved. But for 2026, there's already progress, and I think we can actually ride on that so that we account for what we were able to resolve and then are able to address where we have not been able to resolve. An issue that I wanted to raise was on audits at the companies. I think the general sentiment from companies is that there's a bit of aggression from ZIMRA on the audits. The amount of time it takes them to invest in being able to satisfy the need of the auditors on site and resources they need to deploy, sometimes seeking information that is maybe historical but required in a very short period of time, makes them feel like they've already committed a crime when in fact they haven't committed a crime. And I think a rationalization on how that should be approached and maybe linked to some of the authorized operator approaches? Are there no entities that probably pass for, if they are going to be audited, can that be maybe once a year or once a certain period of time, rather than maybe have multiple audits at the same company in the same year, and then they just feel like it's costly for them, and disruptive of business operations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We take it, the very constructive comments you've made as part of our engagement process, which in a structured manner, which will be, through your engagement, you will be able to deep dive into key issues and see how best we can always move forward in a progressive manner. At the end of the day, it's a compliance issue. So you need to strike a balance, Primarily, one has to be compliant. That's important. But we do appreciate the comments that you want to say something.
Just to mark it, we are currently running a voluntary disclosure. A voluntary disclosure is basically trying to create a balance between time spent on actual audit and investigations and the taxpayer coming forward and making their declaration. So I urge you, BMOs, tax consultants, to go and push this to your taxpayers. They can come. We have a deadline of 30 June. So it's looking at taxes and customs. I know motor vehicle, high value motor vehicle are trending. Yeah. So if you have got high motor vehicles that you're not sure of their compliance status, come through to ZIMRA. Let's ensure that we partner together and avoid spending unnecessary time through audits. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I want to bring the meeting to a closure. Please make it very short. Certainly very short. Okay, start with the gentleman at the back. Okay, I'm coming this way.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. My name is Mishek Ruvengo. I represent Zimbabwe Cross-Border Traders Association. I'm responsible for all trade facilitation programs. The informal economy is a complex issue that we can deal with. I've seen that you have raised issues around the informal economy and the cash economy. But I'm going to speak of the small-scale traders. Firstly, I want to thank the ministry for publicizing the SI 83 of 2026, which is actually an increase from the 500 USD to 2,000. It takes a long time to implement, so I don't know how ZIMRA is going to help us to then speed up some of these programs. In point, I will talk about the common list between Zambia and Zimbabwe, which was then advocated for in 2019. The sorry part of it, it has not been addressed to date. So the proposal around the simplified trade regime, let us as Zimbabwe come up with an STR, a simplified trade regime program for all borders within the framework of SADC and COMESA as we have them already. That's my first input. Another thing that I would want to thank...
I was going to avoid giving you a platform for a full month presentation. I would rather you focus on the key questions which you want to raise so that we move on mindful of time. Thank you.
Sure. In that note then, I would ask that we may have probably under your engagement route, that we may have a platform where we can actually discuss some of these things. When we talk of the informal economy, I think there is no formalization of the informal income. And the informal economy that I'm talking about, I'm speaking to small-scale traders. In this context, let's then use the recently publicized value of 2,000 and below to say there's no way we can...
We do accept that, whenever the ministry has made, an announcement, it is incumbent upon us to engage the relevant stakeholders affected by that instrument. And you are very right. Our team will be reaching out. In fact, that's why we've asked for your name, Mr. Ruwengo. We've got our team here present that will certainly follow up those issues and make sure that at least at a tactical level, we can come up with solutions to the problems or opportunities that you see.
In that note, then, thank you. As we will work together to give institutional support,
yes,
rather than just going to look for revenue without even giving institutional support to our small-scale traders.
Thank you so much. Next.
Emmanuel Nyika Zino Mtonodza is my name, Indigenous Shipping and Freight Agents Association. I wanted to say on the luxury lifestyle audits centered on vehicles, can you as ZIMRA provide detained or inspected vehicles or released vehicles with a secondary certificate, letter, whatever you do, to make sure that my vehicle does not come back for a third inspection?
We take note of that. Again, those are operational issues. Our executive are taking keen interest in the issues which you have raised, and they will be attended to. Next.
Thank you, Chairman. I will be very quick. As business, one of the things which we are seeing is import substitution. However, getting data on imports per tariff code is not coming out very easily. I think you submit data to ZIMSTAT. It then is aggregated, and it doesn't actually identify products so that our members can actually identify what they want to do. So it can be something you can do in terms of publication of data per tariff code as ZIMRA, so that at least we can push towards import substitution, giving that opportunity to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Lawson?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to also the CG and Madam CG and all those who have made presentations. Maybe let me say I'm Onesmo Musi. I represent Sarah under the OPC. On the presentation made by the CG, we had of figures 7.5 billion for this year, which is quite impressive. We are quite happy with that. We have had also of 2026, we are targeting at the US dollar 9.2 billion. But in my mind, I'm saying, can we hear these figures as a percentage of our national GDP? That's my question. Then I've got the second one, is touching on the outlook period, the remainder of 2026 and go and beyond. Recently, we have had SI 99 of 2026, which is basically touching on blockchain technologies and cryptocurrencies. And very soon, I think with that such an instrument, we'll start to see exchanges which deal in cryptocurrencies. Just to say, how is ZIMRA prepared for that environment where we've got cryptocurrencies? What are the opportunities you see, and what are the risks you see, and how do you intend to manage that? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. The relation to GDP, 2025, it was 15%, but remember that the GDP was rebased during the year. You remember that? Yeah. If it were not for that, that ratio would have been much higher than 15%. According to the projection into next year, in this year, 2026, the 9.2 billion represent 16% of GDP. But again, dependent on whether there revaluation of the GDP again as we move forward. So that's where we sit now. I think those numbers are important when you relate it to regional practices, which is what we always want to look at. South Africa is fairly high. Close to 25% in South Africa of GDP. Yeah. Yeah, and the target for NDS2 is 22%. That's why it is important that all the programs we were talking about in terms of investment, staff recruitment must be rolled up to make sure that we meet the target within the NDS2.
On virtual assets, we are working. On virtual assets, we are working. We currently do not have a legislation around it, but we are making proposals for ministry for consideration. It's a reality. It's a revenue risk for us. So we need the appropriate legislation in place. So we are working towards that. Thank you.
Thank you, CG. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate your attendance, your contribution. Now, can we, housekeeping order, can we just have the adoption of the CG's report? Can I have a proposer? Yes, someone. Yes, thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, sir. The report is taken. Next is the finance report from the Director of Finance. Can I have a proposer, please? Shareholders, please help me. Thank you, sir. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, sir. The report is adopted. Can I have a proposer for the Corporate Secretary report? And I'm looking, thank you, sir. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, sir. All the reports are adopted. We move on quickly now to receive the report from the auditors. And I now invite Madam to make your presentation. We thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to present our audit report. Allow me to write on the protocols already established, and allow me to thank the management for their cooperation in providing the information for the audit as necessary. We carried the audit without restrictions. I want to extend our appreciation to the board and also the audit committee oversight. I now ask Mr. Mureiwa, the director responsible, to go through the report. I thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, allow me to write on the existing protocol. So we indeed audited the financial statements of Zimbabwe Revenue Authority for the year ended December 31, 2025. Unlike in 2024, we audited also the revenue returns, but with the developments that have been highlighted by the FD when she was doing a presentation, 2025 was mainly the financial statements of the authority and also the Exchequer Trust financial statements. So I'll start with the financial statements of the authority. We conducted the audit in accordance with international standards for auditing for supreme audit institutions. And our report is on page 73 of the annual report before you. The authority prepared its financial statements in accordance with international public sector accounting standards. As you are aware, government is on the roadmap of adoption of IPSAS. So ZIMRA have already adopted
So at the conclusion of our audit, there were no material misstatements for the authority's financial statement. As a result, we have issued an unmodified audit opinion, which I'll be reading. In my opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of Zimbabwe Revenue Authority as of December 31, 2025, and its financial performance and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with international public sector accounting standards. This is the first section of our opinion. We also concluded on compliance by the authority to legal and regulatory requirements, which is on page 77. Again, on this section, there were no non-compliance that we noted, so we also issued a modified opinion on compliance with legal and regulatory requirements. I now move on to the audit of Exchequer Trust financial statements. So on this audit, our opinion is modified. The Exchequer Trust financial statements had also been prepared in accordance with international public sector accounting standards. There are three issues which led us to issue a modified opinion. The first issue was with non-compliance with international public sector accounting standard 4, which deals with effects of changes in exchange rates. The authority prepared the Exchequer Trust financials using Zimbabwean gold as its functional currency and also presentation currency. IPSAS 4 requires entities to perform an assessment using the primary economic environment in which they operate. There are some indicators highlighted in the standard when determining the functional currency. For instance, currency from which revenue is generated, including taxes, grants, transfer, and fines. So from the review of taxpayer remittance records and the related revenue information that we did during the audit, it points that the Exchequer Trust has generated a significant portion of its cash flows in USD. This was also consistent with management's own functional currency assessment, which acknowledges that more than 70% of revenue collections were denominated and collected in USD. But however, the authority said their functional currency is Zimbabwean gold. Management did not provide sufficient evidence from the remaining primary indicators to support Zimbabwean gold. Management also placed the reliance on regulatory, statutory, and national reporting requirements relating to ZIG reporting. These requirements may support ZIG as a presentation currency, but they do not override the separate functional currency assessment required by IPSAS 4. As a result, I was unable to quantify the financial effect of this departure from international public sector accounting standards on the Exchequer Trust financial statements. So that was the first issue that gave rise to modification. The second issue was on the trial balance. The authority had not comprehensively configured its accounting system to enable generation of a complete and accurate trial balance. As a result, trial balance was not availed, and the financial statements were prepared using schedules and computations maintained outside the accounting system. As a result, I could not ascertain the accuracy and completeness of amounts disclosed. The third issue which gave rise to modified report was on mining royalties database, where we noted the authority had 169 taxpayers in its database with missing details. In addition, the tax status of 35,884 companies could not be ascertained from the database. As a result, I could not ascertain the completeness and accuracy of the revenue from mining royalties disclosed. So these are the three issues which led us to issue an adverse audit opinion on the Exchequer Trust financial statements, which I will now be reading. In my opinion, because of the significance of the matters discussed in the basis for adverse opinion, the Exchequer Trust financial statements do not present fairly the financial position of the authorities. Exchequer Trust financial statement as of December 31, 2025, and its financial performance and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with international public sector accounting standards. So, Chair, these are the audit reports for the two sets of financial statements that we have audited for Zimbabwe Revenue Authority. I thank you.
Thank you so much. Any question, comment? Sir?
Thank you so much for the audit report. Mine is actually to do with IPSAS 4 on the Exchequer Trust. I'm not so sure. I understand the supremacy of the IPSAS compared to the national regulatory. And I'm just wondering, you know, from the income, you say 70%, not necessarily in ZIG. But I'm just wondering, the expenditure, because my understanding is that the expenditure obviously is likely to be in ZIG. And I'm also sure how that can actually be told, because I actually believe it may not necessarily be a ZIMRA problem, but a regulatory. But I just wanted an explanation to say there's also it factor in the expenditure aside, or just focus only on the revenue aspect.
Would you like to make a quick comment to that?
Thank you, Honorable. So, the financials that we have audited are the Exchequer Trust financial statements. So, mainly the mandate of ZIMRA is to collect and remit to Ministry of Finance. So, in terms of expenditure, there is no significant expenditure disclosed in the Exchequer Trust. It's mainly collections and remitting to the Exchequer.
But I suffice to say it's an issue which needs to be attended to. You are very right, it's not a ZIMRA issue. It's a matter that needs attention at a higher level. And we hope sooner than later we'll get a guidance to that effect. Any other comment? If none, can I now have someone to propose the adoption of the audited accounts as presented? Can I have a proposal, please? Thank you, sir. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, sir. Appreciate. The accounts are adopted. Thank you. We move on to the confirmation of audit fees. The audit fees sit at 3,945,105 Zimbabwe dollars in total. Can I have a proposal for the audit fees? A proposal for the audit fee. I'm looking at the shareholders, please. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Can I have a seconder on the audit fee? Thank you, sir. Appreciated. Audit fees are approved. To the next item to consider, confirm the reappointment of the Auditor General. That matter, the Auditor General is appointed for the authority in terms of, and therefore it's a statutory appointment. I don't think there's a need for a proposal or seconder because it's a statutory. Director's fees. Can I have someone to propose the adoption of directors' fees, 15,107,765 Zimbabwe dollars, please? Yeah. Against the same budget anyway, which is 15,438,269 again Zimbabwe dollars. Can I have someone to propose the adoption? Thank you, sir. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, sir. The motion is carried. Can I now invite the minister, the representative of the Minister of Finance for their key highlights? Thank you.
It is my great appreciation and pleasure to be here. I, Grace Ngonidashe Muzondo, to be delivering the statement by the guest of honor, who is our very own Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion, Honorable Professor Mutuli Ngube, on this occasion of ZIMRA's 9th annual general meeting, where we are reflecting the performance for 2025. And the theme is advancing domestic resource mobilization through service excellence and voluntary compliance. Yes, I recall the Commissioner General was talking about measures about voluntary disclosure, which is being encouraged. So the theme is very, it's coordinating with what we are seeing on the ground. And I also want to take note of the assurance that has been given by our very own chair, Dr. Anthony Matuanza, regarding the statement or case for business continuity, which I think precedes the issue which we are principally gathered here for governance, because without resources, there is no governance to talk about. So I want first and foremost to acknowledge in absentia the Honorable Minister of Finance and the Accounting Officer, Permanent Secretary, Mr. George Tongesai Guamatanga, and the Accounting General, who I understand is following online, our Director of Finance, Mr. Zata, and other officials from the ministry. I also want to acknowledge the honorable chairpersons of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Budget, Finance and Investment Promotion, Honorable Lincoln Viwayo in absentia but represented by Honorable Ungwe, the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee, Honorable Caston Mateu, represented by Honorable Mushoriwa, and the chairperson also of the Industry and Commerce, Honorable Clement Shidua, who I believe is not present, but I also acknowledge his presence even in his absence. Representatives from the Office of the President and Cabinet, the CG, Corporate Governance Unit, representatives from the Office of the Auditor General, the State Enterprises Restructuring Agency. I understand there is Mr. Musi and others who may not necessarily call by name, government ministries, departments, and agencies and senior government officials present here. Again, I acknowledge the ZIMRA board chairperson, Mr. Manduanza, and members of the board. The Commissioner General of the Zimbabwe Revenue Authority, Madam Regina Chinamasa, development partners and cooperating partners, reps from industry and commerce, taxpayers, tax practitioners, customs clearing and freight forwarding agents, transporters, consumer associations, and other key ZIMRA stakeholders. The ZIMRA executive management and members of staff, members of the media fraternity, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very good morning to you. So the context here is mainly the governance and national development. Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to join you at this 9th annual general meeting of the Zimbabwe Revenue Authority, which is an important governance platform through which the authority accounts for its performance, reports on the stewardship of public resources, and sets out its contribution to Zimbabwe's fiscal and economic development agenda. And this is what we have been doing here. There was transparency. Everyone was asked to identify themselves by name, and the voting was very transparent. So I'm very content with what I'm seeing here. The presentation of the 2025 annual report and audited financial statements is therefore more than a statutory requirement. It is a demonstration of transparency, institutional discipline, and accountability by an authority that is entrusted with one of the most strategic functions of the state, which is domestic resource mobilization. The Commissioner General alluded that we are collecting 95% of all the revenue collections. So this is quite of noteworthy. So I am going to explain about the issue of domestic resource mobilization as a pillar of fiscal sovereignty. For government, domestic resource mobilization remains central to fiscal sovereignty. I read somewhere where it was said is the epicenter of programs. I think this is in the report. Macroeconomic stability and sustainable development. It is through revenue that we finance public services, infrastructure, social protection, and national programs, while reducing dependence on unsustainable forms of financing. So we want to be less reliant on debt financing. So you do a great job for us if you manage to raise those resources. The task before us is to mobilize revenue in a manner that is efficient. I think one member from the stakeholders raised the critical issue of efficiency, and I think the cost of collection, the Commissioner General and even the Chairman mentioned about that, being actually benchmarked very well against international-wise standards. So I'm saying there is efficiency here, fair and growth supportive. The tax system must collect what is lawfully due to the state while preserving the productive capacity of businesses, supporting investment and encouraging voluntary compliance. Then we move on to the issue of sustaining revenue collection. The year under review, that is 2025, was supported by a stable macroeconomic environment. I see that the Commissioner General is also challenging the single-digit figure by the RBZ, the central bank, moving towards a two-digit figure. So this is supported by this macroeconomic environment that we are talking about and underpinned by deliberate fiscal and monetary policy measures. This stability contributed to improved business confidence, sustained economic activity, and a more supportive environment for investment, production, trade, and revenue mobilization. I like the part where the Commissioner General mentioned an issue of the Customs and Excise Act, where she said it's principally a revenue act. I don't know how we can also incorporate the trade facilitation aspect, because it's also very important, so that if there is good trade facilitation, I think even the revenues will be enhanced. We are, however, mindful that businesses and households continue to operate under demanding conditions. Revenue mobilization must therefore be pursued with proportionality, predictability, and sound judgment. A development-oriented revenue system must be firm against non-compliance, but fair to those making honest efforts to meet their obligations. We want to experience less appeals at the ministry. It's an inspiration or aspiration that we want as we pursue that fairness. So, ladies and gentlemen, 2025 also marks the conclusion of ZIMRA's 2021 to 2025 strategic plan. Over this period, the authority pursued a transformation agenda focusing on modernizing revenue administration, strengthening compliance, improving service delivery, supporting trade facilitation, and contributing to the objectives of the National Development Strategy. So I'm pleased to note that ZIMRA delivered commendable results in 2025, recording gross revenue collections. I will talk of the Zimbabwe Gold, 243.5 billion, which increased as we compared to the nominal figure of ZIG 123.4 billion in 2024. This performance reflects an institution that is reforming, maturing, and positioning itself as a modern, technology-enabled, and strategically responsive revenue administration. The Commissioner General alluded to the issue of taking feedback positively. So here I'm going to say I noticed a slight change or a transition where we see that of course, the percentage or proportion of indirect taxes versus direct taxes, we see that indirect taxes, they are still leading, but we note that the PAYE is also taking over, so it's food for reflection to say what is really happening there. And then I'm talking about now modernization, digitalization, and trade facilitation. And this is more about the digital transformation agenda that we were talking about. Government is encouraged by ZIMRA's continued automation and digitalization programs, which are improving taxpayer convenience, reducing compliance costs, and strengthening administrative efficiency. So investment in border modernization, including scanners, surveillance technology, and command center infrastructure, enhancing border security, supporting legitimate trade, and improving the fight against smuggling, illicit commerce, and revenue leakages. And I heard from the floor from CZI, they alluded to some progress in that respect. And the attainment of ISO 9001 2015 certification is another important milestone reflecting ZIMRA's commitment to quality management, continuous improvement, and internationally recognized service delivery standards. However, modernization must go beyond technology. It must translate into simpler processes, clearer rules, faster service, a reduced administrative burden, and stronger public trust. Technology must be experienced by taxpayers and traders through measurable improvements in service delivery and institutional responses. I would want to highlight, Chair and Commissioner General and management, that at one forum, it was a taxpayers forum, but there was an official from the Zimbabwe Revenue Authority who presented very well. I want to peep into the 2026 and beyond a strategic reform area where I see that ICT is really coming up. We referred to a rebranding exercise that is coming, so I'm very excited about it. I just thought I could mention it, but maybe I'm preempting your strategies. Then integrity, compliance, and the social contract. As we look ahead, several priorities require sustained attention. The informal economy, which the ministry, in particular, our permanent secretary likes to call the emerging sector, remains both a challenge and an opportunity for domestic resource mobilization. Broadening the tax base must be pursued in a fair, practical, and consultative manner that supports economic inclusion and growth. So the digital economy is also reshaping commerce. Electronic transactions, mobile payments, digital platforms, cross-border services, and new business models require a revenue administrative system that is agile, data-driven, and technically capable. I know the issues about data, they were also mentioned here, so that data is more user-friendly and more transparent. It is not lumped, so that it is easier to follow. Micro data is very important. At the same time, tax evasion, smuggling, under declaration, illicit financial flows, corruption, and other forms of non-compliance continue to threaten national revenue and economic fairness. These practices undermine compliant businesses, weaken public finances, and deprive citizens of essential services and opportunities. So here I think the issue about the suspension of prepayment was mentioned. It was an emergency measure. So these are some of the issues that come along with technology. Government will continue to support firm action against corruption, rent-seeking, and abuse of office. Integrity must define every interaction between ZIMRA and the public. There must be zero tolerance for conduct that compromises public trust, whether it comes from taxpayers, intermediaries, or officials entrusted with public responsibility. Enforcement, however, must go hand in hand with service. Compliance is strongest when taxpayers understand their obligations, trust the institution, and treated with fairness, dignity, and professionalism. So Commissioner General have been commended very well, and but I think they said, the stakeholders, that your officers need to be further guided, especially with respect to professionalism and treating the taxpayers with dignity. And I think someone also, not I think, I know someone also mentioned about introducing a light curriculum in the schools at basic education, so that they have to know about, there is awareness about tax and revenues. The strongest revenue authority is not one that inspires fear, but one that earns trust and enforces the law fairly. So I also want to preempt that. I understand that ZIMRA wants to be more professional with respect to that issue of having a partnership with the clients or the taxpayers. So now we are looking at the outlook. The National Development Strategy 2 places domestic resource mobilization at the center of Zimbabwe's economic transformation agenda. Government's expectation is clear. ZIMRA must remain at the forefront of building a modern, efficient, and trusted and future-ready revenue administration system capable of supporting national priorities. The next phase must therefore focus on expanding the tax base, which I know is work in progress. Commissioner General is ready to embrace the cryptocurrencies, the virtual assets, whatever, any form of new technologies that are coming. Simplifying tax processes, improving taxpayer services, enhancing voluntary compliance, strengthening border management, combating corruption, and supporting legitimate trade. So as we reflect, we are now reflecting on ZIMRA's journey, ZIMRA 2025, and defining the future. As we are positioned to celebrate ZIMRA Silver Jubilee on 1 September 2026, we are reminded that the authority's journey mirrors broader development, a broader development journey. 25 years ago, ZIMRA was established to modernize revenue administration and strengthening public finance management. Today, it stands as a key enabler of national development, fiscal sustainability, trade facilitation, and economic governance. And I would want to proudly say that I am a witness to this journey. So allow me to express my appreciation and recognition to the ZIMRA board chairman, Mr. Manduanza, and members of board for their strategic leadership and oversight, which has been actually honored and acknowledged by His Excellency, our President, Dr. Mnangagwa, and the accolades came home. I am so proud about that. And I also want to express the ministry's appreciation to the outgoing board members whose terms ended in January and May 2026, and those whose terms are ending during the remainder of the year. Your contribution to the building of this nation through your oversight on revenue mobilization over the course of your term is a lifetime legacy, and for that we thank you. I also want to extend a special welcome to the new board members appointed in January 2026. I urge you to take on the challenge of serving and leading a legacy of excellence. I was talking to a major stakeholder who used to be a major stakeholder in the motor industry development policy, and I'm happy to notice that he's part of the board. So I'm looking forward to his excellent service and technical expertise on this board. I also want to commend the Commissioner General, Madam Regina Chinamasa, executive management and all ZIMRA staff for their professionalism, dedication and service to the nation. And this is self-evident, even with the recognition and the accolades that have been awarded to ZIMRA. I further extend appreciation to government agencies, development partners, cooperating partners, and stakeholders for their continued collaboration. To you, our Zimbabwe's compliant taxpayers and tax practitioners, I thank you most sincerely. Through your compliance, you help finance public service, infrastructure, social investments, and national programs that improve the lives of our citizens. I also take notice of the stakeholder from the Cross-Border Association. Your input has actually helped government to shape up policies. You were talking here about the simplified trade regime and even how to refine it. It's also your input which shapes up policies. So we also acknowledge and appreciate. Ladies and gentlemen, Zimbabwe's development agenda requires strong institutions, efficient systems, responsible citizens, and public servants who understand that their work is nation building. Let this AGM mark a new chapter of renewed purpose, stronger integrity, sharper innovation, and deeper public trust as ZIMRA continues to serve as a pillar of Zimbabwe's fiscal strength and national development. I thank you. Tatenda siyabonga.
Thank you so much, Madam Grace Muzondo, for eloquently representing the Minister of Finance. We can see the gender power there. And we can see the Minister in waiting. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your presentation. We really appreciate the support that we get from the parent ministry. Ladies and gentlemen, this now concludes the business of the meeting, and I take this opportunity to thank you all for your attendance and to declare the meeting closed. I now hand over to the Director of Ceremonies.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. And ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of our formal proceedings. And let's give ourselves a round of applause for making this event possible. Now, from here, we shall humbly request our board members and our statutory stakeholders, as well as the exec team, to proceed to the holding room. That's where they will be served their refreshments. For the rest of us, will be served just outside. Colleagues and members, esteemed members, we started with a prayer, so we feel it's also befitting that we wrap up with a prayer. So allow me to invite Mr. Stole to give us a word of prayer. Mr. Stole, say.
Thank you. Shall we?